Most people chase success without realizing their biggest obstacle is internal chaos. Stoicism teaches that mastering your thoughts is the first step to mastering life. Today, we explore 5 daily Stoic routines, rooted in the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, that will train your discipline, sharpen your judgment, and give you unshakable clarity no matter what challenges you face. Most people think their thoughts are private, harmless, and entirely their own. That's the illusion. The truth is, your mind is not a sealed fortress. It's porous. Every conversation you hear, every article you skim, every complaint you absorb, seeps in quietly, reshaping how you see the world without your permission. You tell yourself you're in control, but day by day, your inner voice starts to sound more like the voices you've surrounded yourself with. It's not an emotional tragedy. It's an intellectual hazard. Because if the raw material of your thinking is flawed, everything you build on it will be unstable. And here's the paradox. You may work tirelessly to strengthen your willpower or refine your reasoning, yet still fail to notice that the very environment feeding your mind is eroding both. If you've ever wondered why your thoughts feel scattered, reactive, or pessimistic despite your best efforts, look closely at the inputs you allow. Stoicism teaches that the mind reflects the company it keeps, not just people, but information, habits, and even the atmosphere you choose to inhabit. Seneca wrote, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." Yet in the modern world, that advice applies equally to the media you consume, the headlines you click, and the endless stream of voices you let into your mental space. You can't expect to think with clarity if you're bathing your mind in noise. And you can't expect to maintain discipline if you surround yourself with those who constantly rationalize inaction. The hard part is this: you don't always see the damage happening. Negativity doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it disguises itself as humor, as just being realistic, or as keeping up with the news. You scroll, you nod, you laugh along, and bit by bit, your mind adopts the same tone. The Stoics understood this long before modern psychology proved it. Repeated exposure shapes perception, and perception governs judgment. If your mind is a garden, your environment is the weather and the soil. Poor conditions don't just slow growth, they determine what can grow at all. So the first timeless routine is this: guard your mental environment with the same vigilance you would guard your physical home. That means choosing deliberately what voices you allow to influence you. It means asking whether your morning starts with a calm mind or a dozen headlines engineered to provoke outrage. It means deciding whether to spend your evening in thoughtful reading or in conversations that leave you agitated and smaller. This isn't about becoming rigid or cutting off the world. It's about protecting the integrity of your reasoning. Because what you allow in will inevitably show up in what you produce, decide, and believe. If you find value here, subscribe. It's a small click for you, but it helps us share more timeless Stoic wisdom with the world. Now let me ask you something worth commenting on. Which do you think is harder? A, controlling your thoughts, or B, controlling your emotions? Stoicism would argue they are inseparable, but your answer reveals where you believe your current challenge lies. When you begin to control the climate of your mind, you create the conditions for discipline and emotional control to take root naturally. Without that, you're trying to build on shifting sand. Guarding your environment is not a soft practice. It's an intellectual discipline that demands awareness and consistent action. And yet, there's a principle Marcus Aurelius lived by that most people ignore until it's too late. You say you want peace of mind, yet you spend most of your day in wars that exist only in your head. This is the paradox. The events you fear most are rarely the ones that harm you, and yet they consume more of your time than the events that actually happen. The Stoics would call this the tragedy of living in two worlds at once, failing to control the present because you are busy fighting the future. You convince yourself it's preparation, but more often it's a performance for an audience that doesn't exist. You rehearse disasters in detail, craft dialogues for arguments that may never occur, and feel real anxiety over losses you might never face. Epictetus taught that it is not the things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. When your judgment is chained to the future, the present becomes a blur. You miss the simple, actionable truths in front of you because you are negotiating with ghosts. Think of the last time you were late to a meeting. Long before you arrived, your mind probably staged a dozen scenarios: being reprimanded, losing credibility, damaging a relationship. But what actually happened? Perhaps a brief apology, perhaps nothing at all. The cost wasn't in the reality, it was in the hours you spent imagining penalties that never came. This is not harmless. Every moment you trade for a projection is a moment you cannot use to shape the only thing you can truly hold: now. Marcus Aurelius returned to this truth constantly, writing in his private notes to confine yourself to the present. He understood that the present is not a compromise. It is the only place your reason can act. A general cannot win a war by shouting orders at a map of tomorrow's battlefield. Victory is decided by the movements he makes today. Living in the present is not passivity. It is not a refusal to plan or a blind optimism. It is a deliberate act of mental discipline, recognizing when your focus has been hijacked by what does not yet exist, and bringing it back to what you can do in this hour. You may need to decide whether to send the email, take the first step toward a difficult conversation, or simply breathe before speaking in a tense room. Each is a battle you can win now, unlike the imagined conflicts you endlessly replay. Practical mastery begins with awareness. When you catch yourself predicting outcomes, ask, is this a problem in front of me or one I'm manufacturing? If it's the latter, strip it of its false urgency and return to the work or the silence at hand. Anchor yourself physically. Notice your posture, the sound in the room, the temperature of the air. These are not distractions. They are proof that you are back in the one place your decisions matter. If you know someone who needs this message, share this video with them. You might change their day or even their life. Mastering the present moment will not erase uncertainty, but it will remove the self-inflicted suffering caused by wrestling with the future. And once you stop spending your strength on imaginary battles, you can face real setbacks with a clarity most people never experience. In fact, some of the most powerful Stoic victories were forged in the aftermath of defeat, when the mind could have broken, but chose instead to rebuild. That choice, and the discipline behind it, is the next principle you'll need if you want to remain unshaken when life tests you. Failure is not the opposite of success. It's the raw material from which success is built. The paradox is that most people fear failure so deeply that they avoid the very experiences that would have made them stronger. You tell yourself you're being careful, that you're waiting for the right time. But in truth, you're protecting your ego more than your future. From a Stoic perspective, this is like refusing to train for battle because you don't want to get bruised during practice. Seneca warned that difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. If you shield yourself from failure, you are also shielding yourself from the lessons that would have refined your judgment, sharpened your discipline, and deepened your understanding of the world. When you fail, the event itself is neutral. What gives it meaning is your interpretation. The average person sees failure as proof of weakness. The Stoic sees it as feedback, as a mirror showing the exact gap between their intention and their execution. The trouble is, your culture trains you to hide mistakes, to erase them from your story as quickly as possible. That instinct kills growth. When you ignore failure, you also ignore the data it provides. You miss the chance to examine the chain of choices that led you there, to find the point where you could have acted differently. You miss the opportunity to test your resilience, whether you can maintain dignity, composure, and clarity in the very moment your plans collapse. Epictetus taught that the true measure of a person is how they respond when things don't go according to plan. You don't control whether you will stumble. You control whether you will use that stumble as a stepping stone or a justification to quit. And here's where the intellectual pain sets in. If you keep avoiding failure, you're not avoiding risk. You're just guaranteeing that when life finally pushes you down, you'll have no skill in getting back up. Think of Marcus Aurelius, who ruled an empire under constant threat, war, plague, betrayal. He faced repeated setbacks, yet his writings rarely dwell on the events themselves. Instead, they examine his own mind, how to remain just, how to act in harmony with reason, how to continue forward without resentment. He didn't label experiences as failures or successes in the way we do today. He labeled them as occasions for virtue. When you begin to redefine failure as a teacher, you free yourself from the need to avoid it. You no longer ask, how do I make sure this never happens again? Instead, you ask, what does this moment reveal about me? And how will I act differently next time? This is the discipline that allows you to grow stronger with each challenge, rather than weaker through avoidance. If this lesson resonates with you, like this video and subscribe for more timeless Stoic wisdom. Because the reality is, you will face loss, mistakes, and misjudgments. The question is whether you'll let them shrink you or shape you. And in the next part, we'll uncover the mindset Marcus Aurelius used to remain unshaken, even in the face of death, a mindset that strips fear of its power and replaces it with clarity, courage, and calm action. Most people believe they can think their way into a better life. They read, reflect, and plan. But their bodies remain idle, as if the mind can transform reality without ever moving a muscle. The Stoics would call this a quiet form of self-betrayal, knowing what is right, yet refusing to act. Marcus Aurelius warned, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." But he also lived as a soldier and an emperor, making decisions in the field, not just in his study. His mind and body moved in unity, and that unity gave his philosophy life. Without action, wisdom decays into opinion. Think about the times you told yourself you would start exercising, have the difficult conversation, or tackle a project tomorrow. The comfort of delay feels harmless, but in truth, it reshapes you. Every postponed action teaches your body that your mind's commands are negotiable, that discipline is optional. Seneca put it plainly, while we are postponing, life speeds by. When your mind resolves on a course, your body must follow swiftly, not recklessly. Stoicism is not about impulsiveness, but decisively. If you recognize that a small daily routine will sharpen your discipline, begin it today. If you know that physical health supports mental clarity, take a single concrete step now, not later. Action is the proof of intention. One practical Stoic principle is to anchor your thoughts with movement. If you decide to practice gratitude, write it down immediately. If you choose to focus on a task, physically clear your space. The smallest embodied action signals to your mind that the decision is real. Epictetus reminded his students that philosophy was not for show, but for living. And living is impossible without the body's cooperation. There's a hidden cost to ignoring this alignment. When your actions fail to match your reasoning, you begin to distrust yourself. That quiet erosion of self-respect is more dangerous than external failure, because it makes future discipline harder. You start to believe your own mind's voice is just another opinion to be entertained, not a command to be obeyed. If you keep delaying, opportunities won't just pass by, they will never return. A meeting unscheduled, a conversation avoided, a skill left unpracticed. Each one closes a door, sometimes forever. And the longer you wait, the heavier the door becomes. If this reflection challenges you, act on it now. Make one decision your body will execute before the day ends. It's a small click for you to like and subscribe, but that action helps us share more timeless Stoic wisdom with the world and reminds you that philosophy lives through deeds, not just thoughts. In the next part, we'll explore the mental posture that allows you to face chaos without losing clarity. A principle the Stoics used to remain steady even when surrounded by uncertainty and noise. It's a way of thinking that can keep you anchored when everything else is shifting. Most people spend their days reacting instead of progressing. You wake up with intentions, yet by the end of the day, you have only responded to emails, dealt with small interruptions, and handled tasks that keep you in place rather than move you forward. The danger is not that you are doing nothing. It is that you are expending energy without advancing. The Stoics understood that time is a limited resource and that scattering your focus is as wasteful as throwing coins into the sea. Marcus Aurelius advised, "Do every act of your life as though it were the very last act of your life." This is not a call for recklessness. It is a reminder to direct your attention toward what actually matters. If you knew the hours ahead were your final ones, would you still spend them worrying about trivial disagreements or chasing recognition that disappears in a week? Or would you channel your energy into the one or two actions that truly define progress for you? To focus on what moves you forward, you must first define what forward means in your life. Without a clear destination, any distraction can masquerade as progress. Seneca warned against this when he wrote that if a person does not know to what port they are sailing, no wind is favorable. In the same way, if you have not decided what you are aiming for, whether it is mastering a skill, building a project, or deepening your character, you will mistake busyness for movement. Once your aim is defined, discipline becomes the filter. Ask yourself with every decision, does this action take me closer to my goal, or is it just motion without direction? The truth is, Many people already know the answer, but avoid it because meaningful work often feels heavier than shallow activity. But the Stoics would argue that avoiding weight is the surest way to remain weak. Part of focusing forward is refusing to let the past dictate the present. Regret and replaying mistakes can disguise themselves as reflection, but they often serve as mental anchors. Epictetus taught that we cannot control what has already happened, only how we act now. By turning your attention fully to the present moment and the next right step, you free yourself from cycles that drain momentum. You must also guard against scattering your energy across too many directions at once. Every commitment has an unseen cost. It draws attention, time, and emotional bandwidth away from your true priorities. By saying yes too easily, you dilute the very effort that could create meaningful change. The discipline to say no, calmly and without guilt, is an essential part of moving forward with intention. Ultimately, progress in the Stoic sense is not measured by speed, but by alignment. The consistency between what you value and what you actually do. When your daily actions reflect your highest principles, each step, however small, becomes a step forward. In just one sentence, share the Stoic habit you apply every day. In this journey, through 5 timeless Stoic routines, you've seen how discipline, emotional control, and purposeful action are not abstract ideals, but daily practices within your reach. The essence is simple, yet demanding. Protect your mind, master the present, learn from failure, align body and mind, and focus only on what moves you forward. Together, they form a framework that keeps you steady when life is chaotic and decisive when others hesitate. The deeper lesson is that the Stoic path is not about suppressing life's challenges, but transforming them into training grounds for strength. Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus remind us that each day offers a chance to practice, not someday in the future, but now, by making small, deliberate choices that match your principles. Practically, this means beginning your morning with a conscious thought rather than a reflex, ending your day with reflection instead of distraction, and treating every obstacle as a teacher instead of an enemy. And here's a perspective worth carrying. Life will not slow down for you to get ready. The choice is to live prepared or live reactive. The question is, when your next test comes, will you recognize it as the moment to apply what you've learned here, or will you let it slip by unnoticed? How have you seen Stoic principles shape your own actions when it mattered most? Subscribe to discover timeless Stoic principles each week and learn how to apply them in real life.